When you want to add interactivity to the game, the best thing to do is to add hidden objects around the world that you will cross or collide with your player. These are simply maybe boxes or sphere or thresholds, anything that you can use to that make your player collide with it and therefore creating a collision event. So how do we do this? We press the plus here and we add a trigger box. The trigger box is simply a box that you can position and resize whatever in the game. But strategically, we want to position in a place where the player necessarily will go through. And by pressing the W key, I can position it. By pressing the R key, I can resize it. But you see how difficult it is to see it. So one of the things to do is to select the trigger box and go into the setting here, contextual menu, and look for thickness. If I search for thickness and I set it on 1, I can actually see it. The next thing, I would like to see it when I play the game. And so if you search for rendering actor hidden in game and you untick it, then when you press play, you will actually see it, so it's easy to find to test. One other very important thing is to rename the trigger box in a way that you can find it, so TB to remember what type of thing it is straight away. So I'm looking for a trigger box, so I do search TB, and then what is it for? So music control. Naming is personal, you will do what you want, but I'd highly recommend to create your own categories, otherwise in all the outliner you will never find, you will lose a lot of time if the name is not consistent. Once you have this, then we can select the name in your outliner and search the box by pressing F and keep resizing in a way that now it's easier because we can see it. If I press the key E, I can even rotate it, which is necessary now, and then I press the R key to resize it a little. I'm pressing the W to position it around it, and then I'm pressing the R to resize a little bit, and I want it to be quite extensive so that the player can go in and stay a little bit in. Make sure you use all your zoom ability and navigation ability to make sure that it goes down and it's attached to the ground so the player can pass through it. And I think I want to lower a little bit because, or actually move it a little bit this way so that the player will go into it necessarily in a nice way. I think that's enough for now. So I want to save this. And now the next step is to add interactivity. To add interactivity, I make sure it is selected and I press the middle button there. So next to the plus, you have the open level blueprint, and I'll do that. In the level blueprint, you find yourself with a blank table here that you can add functionality by right-clicking and choosing particular node. In the specific, because I selected an object in my outliner, if I right-click and the context-sensitive menu is turned on, you see that it is already referenced the exact control box, the exact trigger box. I don't want to reference now, but I want to add to it a collision event. There are 3 types of collision events. One, when the actor, the player, is beginning to overlap, so he just encounter it and crossed it. And one when the player is leaving the box, or when it's hidden. For now, I want the begin overlap, so when the player just the first encounter and cross it. And again, I open another one, collision, and I get the end overlap. The next step to do is to make sure that the person that has triggered the box is actually the player, because otherwise an enemy can pass through and trigger your sounds without you even knowing. And so by pulling off the line after or other actor, I search for the equal sign because I want to make a comparison. Is the thing that is passing through the player? And then I search by clicking there, get player character, and this you need to know just because I'm telling you, but the more you do, the more you learn. This is a direct reference to what is the player, and the value of return can be used for the comparison. The equal sign operator will just give me a result of yes or no. So to complete the process, I need a branch node. So I search for branch, there's a branch node. And the condition of the branch node is the result of this operator of comparison. But this doesn't do anything until I connect the trigger, the event of trigger by the player, to the branch, so that once the branch is fed with the condition, it can still perform thanks to the activation from the triggering of the box. The same exact process must be done for the one below, because when the player is crossing to leave the box, I also want to know if it was a player or not. At least I will know it as a human, but the computer needs to be told. So the conditions are the same, the branch is the same, and I'm checking again if it's the player or not. But in another time moment, which is the end overlap, not the begin overlap. If you're lost, you can always read the name in a very self-explanatory, which teaches you that in programming, putting names that are very clear is very helpful. Now that I have this situation, the next bit it will be to finally play the sound. But to play a sound, I need to go back to my area and add the sound to the game. I am assuming that you already created a music sound into your fmod, and so you will need to look into your content folder, fmod, and under events, you will see the one that you have created. You can simply drag and drop it into the viewport. The fmod sound at the moment is 2D, so it will always play to your headphones regardless of what it is. There's no distance attenuation or so on because it's not a 3D source. And it's there in the level. Because it's there in the level, I know that if I press play, it will play. But I don't want to do that because I want to turn it on. And so I can select it in the outliner, go down in the settings for it, and if you see that there is activation, remove the tick to the auto activate. So that when I press play, it won't play. And that's what I want. Now, the next step will be to add interactivity to this. So simply in the same way, you select in the outliner the actual music event, which I placed roughly there in the grass. I can even lift it a little bit more, you can see it. And go into my outliner. In the level blueprint now, if I right click and I have the context sensitive ticked, I can see the reference to the music test, not anymore at the box because I'm selecting the music event. And this time I do want a reference. I do want a reference because I want to send a command to that thing the moment that the player is crossing the box. And by dragging out of here, I can select the node play by typing it and find it. And you can see there's not a lot of components available for play because this is a little bit of a defect of the context center. Sometimes it doesn't show you all of them. Let's put it this way. So if you untick that, then there you go. It will appear an fmod component complete. There is a reason for that, but it's too long to explain now. And as you can see, it needed some extra information to achieve that. That's probably why, because this was just a reference to that object, to the actor in the viewport, but he didn't know it was an audio component. And only when he knows there is an audio component, he can find a play command. Take it or leave it, but that's the explanation. But now we have the command, so I can say play to that particular event that we just referenced, and the command is coming through the branch under the true option, and that will make play the sound. And what do we need to do below? In this part here, I simply right click with the context centering on, and I have selected still in the main view port the music test fmod object, drag out of here and type stop. I don't find and remove the context sensitive, and there you go. Under the fmod, you need to be looking at the fmod. Let's call it fmod stop. And there you go. Here it is. So let me put it a little bit in order like that. And now I connect the branching for the stop. If you did all of this, this is the bird eye view, so have a look if everything is correct. Remember the condition and remember the line, but then you can compile. This will go green if it's everything correct. Save it anyways, otherwise it will forget. And then go into my village, maybe save the village too, and press play. No sounds, because that's what we wanted. I direct myself towards the box and I go. And here it is, the box is coming. I cross the box, can you see it? And if I leave the box, it would stop. If I cross it again and leave it, it will go. So it will work either way, even from the same area. So you're always checking for the character and see if the character is passing through, and it will work. So that's the first interactivity that we design. And the same concept of referencing the object will be using to not play a stop, but to change parameters.